Okon. He's a community organizer in Nigeria. He's a gender rights activist in the Niger Delta and across the nation, founder of Kabet Kache Women Development and Resource Center, which works to promote the rights of women and develop their leadership potentials. She has received awards in recognition of her contribution to women's emancipation in Niger Delta, such as the Fumilayo Kuti Award for Women Emancipation by the Rivers State Branch of CLO, Civil Liberties Organization, and the prestigious Woman of the Year 2002 Award of the American Biographical Institute. She is the current zonal coordinator South-South of the Gender and Constitutional Reform Network. She is a comrade you can rely on anytime. Emem, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, sir. I really have to appreciate all the speakers, all the 5 or 6 speakers, for very interesting presentation. And they have also done a lot of work. My topic is energy access, gender perspective. The previous presenters have done a lot to discuss energy, renewable energy, non-renewable energy, fossil fuel, and all that. And because of time, I will just go into energy access and also discuss the gender implications. Energy access has to do with making energy available for lighting, for cooking, and for other productive economic use for hundreds of millions of persons. And this is a huge challenge. Simply put, it is making available electricity and modern energy devices at affordable prices. Because the way the energy system is now, a lot of people cannot afford it. Access to energy is a basic human need necessary to enhance services. As I said earlier, lighting, cooking, heating, and several other things that we need energy for. It is necessary to make it available for people living without electricity or those who depend on solid fuels to improve their living conditions. Actually, even here in Port Harcourt, a lot of us are struggling with access to energy. At times, I wonder how we manage every day without electricity. Many of us depend on a generator. In short, right now in the office, we are using generator for me to be able to charge this laptop, charge my phone, and charge the fridge in the office and several other things. Electricity is needed in households, is needed in clinics, is needed in schools, is needed for small businesses. Without electricity, small businesses cannot thrive. And this is a huge problem, particularly for those in rural community, especially women who run hairdressing salons, food vendors, restaurants, people who have school proprietors. They need energy to sustain those businesses. The Nigerian energy system is dominated by the hydrocarbon-based non-renewable energy sources. This has been discussed, and these non-renewable energy sources is responsible for climate change, which has become a serious challenge to sustainable development. We are all suffering the impact and the manifestations of climate change in the society. Report has it that 3 billion people, about 3 billion people in the world live without electricity, and 68% of these people live in sub-Saharan Africa. According to Ifediora 2020, 631 million persons in sub-Saharan Africa live without reliable access to electricity. This is a huge number. In short, the information I saw that actually made me to shiver is that a fridge in a developed country uses 9 times more electricity than the average Ethiopian citizen. A fridge, one single fridge in a developed country uses 9 times more electricity than the average Ethiopian citizen. That this quote mentions Ethiopian citizen does not mean it is only people in Ethiopia that do not have access to electricity. In fact, one fridge in a developed country uses 9 times more electricity than the average African, including those of us in Nigeria and so many countries. And because of lack of access to electricity, most people cook using traditional fuels and they inhale smoke that cause several forms of diseases and sicknesses. And among these people that suffer this, women are the most affected. This is a woman in Otuabagi community in Bayelsa. Is in Oloibri clan, where the very first oil well in Nigeria was installed. Oloibri oil well 1 is in this community. And you can see this woman, she's drying fish using fuel wood. And that is what so many other people in that community and in other Niger Delta communities, even urban areas, some of them are using this. In short, recently in my own house, I saw my sister using firewood to cook afang soup. It is reported that 20 high-impact countries in Asia and Africa account for about 2/3 of those without access to electricity. And 3/4 of these people use wood, charcoal, animal and crop waste, and also coal to cook and heat their homes. And because of this, there is indoor air pollution, which it is also reported that it has caused the premature deaths of about 4 million people in a year. And most of these people are women and children. To bridge the electricity gap, millions of people in urban and rural areas use generators powered by fossil fuel. And this has caused environmental hazards and noise pollution. It is actually a big problem because right now, if I am seated in the main office, I will be disturbed to make this presentation because of the noise from the generator. And it's also a problem in the neighborhood when all the people are using generator because there is no electricity, the noise becomes a nuisance. It is also reported that the International Energy Agency predicts that demand for energy will grow by 4% every year from now till 2040. And we can imagine the impact on women and girls. This is ogbono fruit. We call it ogbono in Nigeria. I don't know what it is called in other countries. It's a delicacy that we use to thicken soup, and it is being dried under the sun. This is also Otuabagi community. And we can imagine how long, these days when we have more rains in the year than sunlight, how long it will take the women that trade on this fruit to dry it enough to go and sell and generate family income. Energy inequality. To really understand what energy inequality means, I know this has been shared by the previous presenters, especially Ken and Fatima, really discussed this in details. But I'll just pose these questions, and answers and responses to this question will also give us a clearer picture of the inequalities that exist in the energy sector. Who controls the sources of energy? Who controls coal? Who controls oil and gas and water? Who owns the technology to extract, produce, store, and use energy? And then who uses energy? Who bears the costs of making energy? And in all these processes, and in responding to these questions, where do men and women fit in the power relations and the power politics around energy resources? Energy access in Nigeria is a huge challenge. About 50% of Nigerians do not have electricity. In fact, in a study on women and energy commissioned by Women African Gender and Extractive Alliance in 2018, revealed that 75 million persons in Nigeria lack access to electricity. About 90% of these people are in rural communities. They don't have electricity. And most of these energy poor people are women. This is also a group of women in the Igbo community. They came back from fishing, they are sorting out the fish, and they are going to use fuel wood to dry the fish. And you can imagine inhaling smoke every day from drying of fish, the impact on the health of the women and the impact on other community members. Because apart from directly inhaling the smoke from the processes of drying the fish, the emission also goes into the atmosphere and other community members are inhaling it. So we can imagine the number of years that these women have been in this occupation and the number of years and the kind of ailments and sicknesses in that community. And this happens in several other communities in the Niger Delta and all over the world. Nigerians spend more on self-generation of basic energy services, and the financial burden is more on rural women who are the most energy dependent. If we look at the activities of rural women, most of them are in subsistence occupation of farming and fishing and trading. And then they have issues restoring their perishable goods. And without access to energy, they cannot really preserve those goods. In short, all this also play out in this period of COVID-19 lockdown, that when the lockdown was announced, women could not buy things in excess to store in the house. They could only buy what they need at the moment. So that means for the period the lockdown lasted, what they could get for the family to eat could only last 1 or 2 days. And after that, everybody was hungry. And that is why there was a lot of confusion and conflict, because people needed to go out to look for food to buy. And then women who sell food have to create spaces to sell to other people who were in need because the markets were shut down. This has implication of access to electricity and access to energy. Even for those who were locked down in the house, there was the problem, what will we be doing in the house? Because without having access to electricity, it was a challenge keeping yourself occupied in the house. You have to power your television. You have to power your radio. You have to power your laptop. For those of us that are always on laptops, we need energy to be able to get internet access, because the internet modem will not work if there is no electricity. So all these challenges have implications for access to energy. Pollution is caused by burning coal, wood, charcoal, and cow dung. Illnesses from indoor pollution result in more deaths for women and children than HIV and AIDS or malaria. In fact, last year when we participated in the Climate Change Summit in Ghana, in one of the sessions, it was revealed that in 2018, that over 1 million people died of pollution, whereas only about 740,000 people died of HIV and AIDS, which means complications from having from lack of access to energy cause more deaths than HIV and AIDS and maybe than COVID-19. Because if we look at what people have suffered during the COVID-19 lockdown, a lot of people died not as a result of the pandemic, but as a result of other complications within the community and within the society that arises from the challenges of coping with the lockdown and the restrictions that came with the COVID-19 preventive measures. World Health Organization says that 85% of people who die of indoor pollution are women and children. There are certain policies that actually promote energy access. At the global level, there is the Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goal 7 focuses on access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all by 2030. And this is 2020. So by the next 10 years, we will be expecting for everybody, including you and I, to have access to affordable and reliable energy. What magic will happen within the next 10 years to achieve that? There is also the Sustainable Energy for All initiative, which was launched in September 2011 by the United Nations to promote universal access to clean energy services by 2030. I wouldn't know how far this has been implemented, but the policy is there and it looks good. It would be good if we take time to say renewable energy and energy efficiency, which aims at and energy efficiency within the ECOWAS sub-region by this year, 2020. And well, your guess is as good as mine whether that objective has been achieved. There is also the West African Clean Cooking Alliance, which objective is to provide access to clean, safe, efficient, and affordable cooking energy in the Star West African sub-region. I don't know how many people have access to clean, safe, efficient, and cooking energy. At the national level, there is the Nigerian Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, which aims at installing 10 million stoves nationwide within 10 years through a coordinated effort. This was launched in 2011, and this is 2020. And the objective is supposed to be achieved within 10 years. How many women have access to clean cook stove? In 2018, when Kebet Kase and women convened a Women and Energy Assembly in Rivers State, one of the resource persons informed the participants that there is a stove, that a clean energy stove, and he promised that he will try to assist the women to have access to that stove. But the problem was, it was not affordable because the price he called made most of the women, particularly community women, said, but we cannot have access to that. But then the processes of getting it was also complicated. He said the women have to get in contact with one professor who will have to order this stove from Germany. So it's not even something that is produced within the country. That was a huge, in short, after the workshop, because of the way the whole thing was presented, people were not motivated to seek further information on how to have access to that stove. There is also the Nigeria Sustainable Energy for All Action Agenda. This was adopted in 2016, and this is 2020. What has been achieved through this agenda? Another thing is how many people even know that there is something like this? There is need for civil society to identify all these policies and also begin to build advocacy around it, because all this could be domiciled at the national level, but it does not come down to the state level and it does not go down to the local government level. In short, I'm sure that if we begin to engage local government councillors, they might not even have an idea of a energy for all action agenda. And they won't even also have idea of how to draw it down to the local government level. And if it is not drawn down to the local level, how can community women participate in this initiative and how can they benefit? Our society operates a system which assigns subservient role to women. And because of this, women organize around the households. They manage They manage the services and the needs of family members, care for the sick, manage household water, and also ensure that there is fuel available for family use. If women had access to modern energy services, they would not suffer so much seeking and providing energy for the family. Women energy challenges are taken for granted. It is seen as natural because of their gender roles within the family. And besides, companies, in a bid to say that they are contributing to addressing issues of climate change, they buy the ability of forests to absorb carbon from the atmosphere. And in this process, they deprive women access to forests. And in this forest, that is where women access wood, that is where they access food, and that is where they also access medicinal plants. So apart from the fact that the government cannot provide energy for use, even the forest, the environment that women used to engage with to make up for the lack of access to energy is also being gradually taken away from them. What should be done to address gender energy poverty? In women, we came up with 3 key approaches. The welfare approach. The welfare approach could make life easier for women to continue performing their gender roles. Companies or government can provide subsidies to women to access solar power. Small solar power grids can be built for community women to manage. Women can be taught to make clean cooking stove, and this can improve the way this can improve some of the way they access energy within the household and within the community. Making this improved cooking stove could in a way reduce indoor air pollution and also reduce health risks. I will share an experience around the issue of health risks for women. I used to have an auntie that used to fry akara, and she was using fuel wood to fry akara. And she did that for many years and trained all the 5 children that she had. But by the time she died, she was blind because the smoke from everyday frying akara and also other things within the family affected her eyes. And there is also the problem of having access to healthcare services. She was not treated, and for many years before she died, she was blind. The welfare approach might not solve all the problem around women accessing energy because it does not challenge the power and the privilege of those who control energy. The welfare approach will not also address the inequality that exists within the energy economy. It does not address the injustice. It will only make things easy for women at a time. And it is something that will actually be seen as by those who control the energy resources and the energy economy as a given to the women. So it will look like somebody is doing the women a favor by providing welfare package to address energy poverty. Another approach is the women entrepreneurs approach. This approach seeks to empower women to create small businesses in the renewable energy economy. That means women can form cooperatives to produce and sell energy products, such as clean cooking stove, or they can operate small solar farms. For cooperatives, this approach may lessen energy poverty to an extent and help women to generate income from these activities. It will help a few people out of the millions of people who do not have access to electricity, but it will not change the way that energy is being managed and distributed in favor of big corporations. Finally, the energy transformation approach. This approach encourages the participation of women in energy control and governance at all levels, from local communities to state, to national, to sub-regional, to the African region, and also at the global level. I would like to mention here that to an extent, we have had women in Nigeria who have been heads of establishments that have the responsibility of providing energy. There was a time we had a woman being the MD and the Chief Executive Officer of the Rural Electrification Agency. We have also had a woman at the helm of affairs in the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC. And also the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria have had women on its executive board. But then, however, this has not really translated to changing the power relations and has not also really allowed women to have control over energy that they need for their daily living. We need to build advocacy around this and see how the little provisions or little privileges can be enhanced to ensure that women have access to electricity. The energy transformation approach, however, will provide the opportunity to challenge the greedy, selfish individuals and corporations who control energy in their own interests without considering the harm that they do to the environment and to the people. The previous speakers have actually discussed how fossil fuel extraction has led to the destruction of local livelihood, destruction of local economy, and also the destruction of the environment. So I don't need to go into all that. But when it comes to all this destruction of local economy and all that, it is women that are most impacted because they engage more with the environment at the local level. The energy transformation approach will involve addressing human rights abuses that promote energy injustice. And this includes addressing the burden of climate change, addressing issues of lack of access to clean water, and women are most impacted. And when women are struggling with impacts of climate change and also searching for clean water, they are exposed in the process to violence and insecurity. And this has also added to increase in violence against women in the society. The energy transition needs to be done in ways that respect and protect ordinary people, particularly the women, and also the environment. I will end here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.